ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So welcome to our Saturday weekly session. We shall continue on chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita from verse number 13 onwards. But I have a suggestion that I should go back on verse 12 for a little while. So we will do that and then we will continue from verse 13 onwards. So verse number 12 first. मर्म को न जानकर किए हुए अभ्यास से ज्ञान श्रेष्ठ है। ज्ञान से मुझ परमेश्वर के स्वरूप का ध्यान श्रेष्ठ है और ध्यान से भी सब कर्मों के फल का त्याग श्रेष्ठ है। Now actually this is a very profound summary for a practical person, for a person to do his sadhana in a practical way. Now, if we can understand things properly, मर्म को जानकर, if we can understand the core and of the core of that proposition or core of the knowledge, then it would be easy to do any kind of sadhana. So मर्म को जानकर अभ्यास करना, that is of course what I can say is most pervasive, most profound, deepest. But most of the time, what happens that our knowledge is not complete. We are told by different people different things, and then we practice according to their statements or according to their suggestions. In that case, sometimes our knowledge is imperfect and we land up in wrong direction. So that is why Lord Krishna has said that मर्म को न जानकर अगर आप अभ्यास करते हैं, if you get into a practice without understanding the core theme of that particular idea, then you might land up into a wrong direction. And that is why he says that the knowledge, Gyan Sreshta, that knowledge is better than a practice done without understanding the core theme of a particular idea. So that is the first part of it. So knowledge is definitely better. And now knowledge is what? Knowledge is called Paroksh Gyan here. Paroksh Gyan is basically the knowledge which has been experienced by certain saints, by certain munis, and it has been recorded in the form of Shastras or their pravachans. Now that is the Paroksh Gyan. Now Paroksh Gyan is certainly based on the experience of an individual, and therefore it is better than our practice which is not based on complete understanding of the thrust. So this is one point we must understand. So most of the time, since our knowledge is not perfect, it is better to first get Paroksh Gyan, that is the knowledge from the Shastras, understand it fully, and then proceed further. Now it says the third step, that परमेश्वर के ध्यान, उस परमेश्वर का ध्यान knowledge से श्रेष्ठ है. Now that is very important because knowledge, Paroksh Gyan, is still experience of XYZ, not your own experience. It has been done by certain munis, by certain rishis, and they have told you based on their experience. But if you directly connect yourself with the Almighty, obviously that would be the best thing to do. And therefore, Lord Krishna has said that if you can meditate directly on me, that will give you a direct experience of the Supreme, and therefore that would be better than the Paroksh Gyan, which is in the form of books or in the form of Shastras or in the form of pravachan by other people. Then he says Now, here, he goes to a very worldly reality that most people are not able to get over the previous three. Because, firstly, to know the core of a theme is not easy. Secondly, even to understand the Shastras is not that easy. Then, to meditate on the Supreme directly is also not easy. And therefore, Lord Krishna has come to a very practical suggestion that सब कर्मों के फल का त्याग. Now, in any case, the outcome of our karma is not in our hands. The outcome is determined by a variety of forces operating in the universe. If the outcome were to be under our control, then the life will be mathematical. Okay, I take this medicine, I want to remain young throughout my life. The outcome is known to you, this is what is going to happen. Then there's no uncertainty. Then the life is full mathematics. And you can manipulate as you want. But unfortunately, the outcome is not in your hands. The outcome is determined by millions of factors which are operating in the universe. And therefore, since the result is not in your hand, it's better to leave it to the Supreme. So, this is the easiest way to link to the Supreme, to not to expect the outcome. Let whatever outcome is there, let us accept that as prasad of the Supreme. This is what Lord Krishna has suggested, and this suggestion has come because of the practical difficulties of human life in this world. And I think this is an extremely good suggestion. This is the easiest path for all of us. Of course, we try and understand the core theme of life and why we are here, what is this universe, how it is run, who created it. These are very fundamental questions. We may keep our interest in that. We try to build upon that. But at the same time, the simplest method for each one of us is to leave the result of our karma in the hands of the Supreme. And in any case, these are in the hands of the Supreme. It is just our mental state which has to be, reframed to accept that reality. So, this is the easiest path we can all follow, and that is why uh, Lord Krishna has given this suggestion here. And as soon as you are not worried about the outcome and you accept whatever happens, then I think you become absolutely cool, calm, you become quiet, you are not agitated. Whatever life brings you, accept it. So this is what is very important in this verse, and this gives us a practical suggestion to move forward. Now, verse number 13 to the end of this chapter, verse number 20, Lord Krishna has enumerated certain characteristics. The total number is about 36 of a person who has realized himself, who has reached a path where he is able to connect with the Supreme. Either he is yogi, or he is a self realized person, or he has dedicated himself to the Supreme totally. In that event, what happens to that person, how his personality gets transformed. And these are the characteristics which are very important to understand. If we get in our personality some of these characteristics, it means we are moving on the right path. This is also a test for us. So let's go on verse number 13, 14. जो पुरुष सब भूतों में द्वेष भाव रहित, स्वार्थ रहित, सबका प्रेमी और दयालु है, तथा ममता से रहित, अहंकार से रहित, सुख दुखों की प्राप्ति में सम है और क्षमावान है, जो योगी निरंतर अपने आप में संतुष्ट है, मन इंद्रियों सहित शरीर को वश में किए हुए है और मुझ में दृढ़ निश्चय वाला है, वह योगी मुझे प्रिय है. Now, let's see the Sanskrit words. Advesta. Advesta means that he doesn't have hatred for anybody. He takes everybody as, his friends, his equal, his well-wisher, no dvesh for anybody. Advesta sarvbhutanam, sarvbhutanam, all the creatures, all kinds of creatures. He has no hatred for anybody. Then maitre means basically to be friendly with everybody. And karun means, now karun and daya. There's a difference between two words, karuna and daya. Karuna as is an instinct, innate ability to be kind to others, while daya is to some extent has a mix of ego. That आप दया करके किसी को दान देते हैं, it means that you are in a position to donate and you are obliging others who are receiving your donation. You are, आप दया करके किसी को दंड नहीं देते. Now that means you are in a position to punish him, but you are giving him a sort of reprieve from that punishment, and you show your ego in the process. So daya has some element of ego, but karuna is natural process in which your personality builds up in such a way that you are kind to all the rest. So that is the difference between these two words. But here Lord Krishna has used word karuna, not daya. Here says advesta sarvbhutanam maitre karuna evcha. That is the first verse, first line of the first verse. Then nirmamo. Nirmamo means he doesn't have any selfish motive. Mam means he is not thinking of himself. And nirahankar, he is not doing things for his ego, for boosting his, prestige, or, projecting himself as a higher personality. He is not doing any of those things. So he is nirmamo, nirahankar. Then some dukkha sukha. He is equanimous in dukh and sukh, both in pleasant situation and unpleasant situation. He is equanimous. Now, Shami, he is also able to, forgive all others whatever they do. Now, these qualities you cannot cultivate one by one. It is not possible. These qualities will come into your personality automatically once you are connected with the Supreme. When you start taking all the outcomes as they happen with you as a prasad of the Supreme, you will connect with him on every particular outcome. And that connection will help you in developing these qualities automatically. For example, advesta sarvbhutana. Once you say that all the outcomes which you are getting, whether they are good or bad in your perception, they are the grace of the Supreme. Then you will not blame XYZ who has done bad for me. He has, harmed me. He has done this kind of thing to me. Now you will not blame him. So there would be no hatred. These qualities will automatically, all these qualities, whether it is quality of maitri, friendship, karuna, and avoiding the selfishness and the ego, all this will automatically evolve in your personality. You don't have to cultivate them. They will come on their own once you are able to connect with the Supreme. And I can tell you this is absolutely true, because as you become uh, in the domain, you surrender yourself to the Supreme, these qualities gradually come into your personality, and you will feel that your personality is changing. Now similarly, the next verse says santushta. Santushta means you are contented. The person who is contented, he is the richest person. He is the billionaire of the billionaire, you see. A person having a lot of money or a lot of power, may, if he is not contented, he is not rich. The richage is actually coming from santushti, not from anything else. So all these qualities which have been mentioned here. Now satat yogi means you are connected with the supreme all the time. Yatatma means that you have been able to control your sense organs and your mind. And Drad Nischay comes only when you are your own boss. If you are impacted by what others do, if somebody abuses you and you become absolutely shaky, then obviously you are not under control. You cannot have Drad you cannot have firmness in your personality. The firmness in the personality comes only when you are on a firm footing, when you are not dependent on others, when you are not others are not able to impact on your conduct. You are the master of yourself. For example, let me give you an example to explain this. You have a boat on the sea. Now with the waves, boat will keep going up and down. When the waves come, it will keep you know moving and shifting this side, that side. All these movements will continue as long as the boat is dependent on the movement of the waves in the sea, which is natural. There's no other support to the boat there on the sea. The support is only from the waves. And since the waves are moving, the boat is also moving. It can even overturn sometimes. All that can happen because of the movement of the waves. Now, since the waves are not stable, the boat cannot be stable. That's not possible. But you put a lighthouse in the sea. Now, lighthouse will be based on a firm ground, which will not be, you know, moved by the waves. The waves will not be able to impact on the lighthouse. Lighthouse will remain firmly standing on its own firm ground. So similarly, when we are under our own control, without you know any doubt, without any fear, in that case, outside world will not be able to dominate us, will not be able to impact us, will not be able to what you call in Sanskrit vichlit nahi kar payega. We will not be able to uh, you know uh, transgress our firm decision, our firm position. But if we are not on the firm ground, obviously we will move like a boat on the ocean. And that is what mostly happens with us. So all these things he's saying. At the end he says, मन और बुद्धि जो मेरे को दे देता है, मन बुद्धि ऑटोमेटिकली चली जाती है once you are accepting the supreme as you know as everything to you, because whatever results are coming, then you accept this as prasad of the supreme. In that situation, you do not apply your mind and intellect to analyze that, and therefore you have surrendered your mind and intellect to the supreme. And in that position, obviously, uh, everything, like a small child leaves it to the mother, similarly we leave it to the supreme, and we are absolutely quiet, calm, without any problem. So this is what these two verses are telling us, some of the qualities which evolve in a human being as he follows one of the four paths which have been mentioned above. In the From verse number 1 to 12, there are four paths. The first path is the path of meditation, directly, without any image of the supreme, directly concentrating on your consciousness and identifying with that. But that path is a bit difficult, because it's not easy to concentrate on the consciousness directly. Then the second path is you have an image of the supreme, and you concentrate on that image and you surrender to that image. That is easier path, because we can identify that image with our sense organs, and we can admire that image, we can surrender to that image. That's the second path. The third path is the path when you leave that I am not the doer. All the actions which you are doing, you are not the doer. The kartapan ka abhav, that is, you are doing all that as part of the instrument or as part of the overall uh, engine of this universe, which has been established by the Supreme, and therefore you have no ego in what you are doing. That is kartapan chhod dena. That is the third path. And fourth is the फल को छोड़ देना. अगर आप कर्तापन भी नहीं छोड़ सकते, if you can't you know take your ego completely out of what you are doing, then leave the outcome of that to the Supreme. Now, these are the four paths which have been mentioned in the 12 verses previously. And out of those, any path we follow, if we are in the right direction, then we will continue to develop these qualities. These are some of the qualities mentioned by Lord Krishna in these two verses. Then there are more qualities which will come in the following verses. The verse number 15, जिससे कोई भी जीव उद्वेग को प्राप्त नहीं होता और जो स्वयं भी किसी जीव से उद्वेग को प्राप्त नहीं होता, जो हर्ष अमर्ष भय और उद्वेग से अतीत है, वो भक्त मुझे प्रिय है. Now, the word which have been used here in Sanskrit is यस्मानो दिज्यते लोको लोकानो दिज्यते चाहिए. That the person is not getting vichlit by the world outside. The outside world is not impacting him. And similarly, he is not creating unnecessary waves in the outside world. So this is reciprocal. Because when a person who is quiet, calm, he goes, he doesn't create waves, he creates peace around you. You have seen some very nice, peaceful person. When they go, all around atmosphere becomes very peaceful. When an agitated person goes somewhere, he creates agitation wherever he goes. So that is the personality of the individual which actually creates these waves in the world, and then he is also impacted by the waves. So Lord Krishna is saying that a person who is peaceful, calm, he will not create these waves in the loka, in the world, and he will not be impacted by such waves which are happening in the world outside. So that is another quality which he has mentioned here. Then he says, Harsa Amars Bhayo. That is, Hars, you are not, impacting, you are not feeling happy because of some event. You are not feeling Amars means you are not feeling unhappy because of certain events. You don't have any fear what happens outside. All this. And then another word is Udveg. Now, Udveg is very, sometime it is called Udasin, that you become, no, that's a different word. Yeah, this is Udveg means creating waves. The waves are created primarily because of the personality of the individual. I have seen people who come in the office in the early morning. They are upset for some reason, and when they reach the office, the receptionist doesn't give proper attention or doesn't say good morning or namaskar to the individual, and he gets so agitated and the whole atmosphere in the office becomes agitated. You did not do this, you did not do this. He start firing. This is the kind of thing which happens, and that creates udveg. Udveg means waves. Waves are created like in the ocean. When the wind comes, the waves are created. Similarly, that wind of the personality comes, and waves are created in the atmosphere. Now, that situation is avoided if you are not impacted by hars and amars, and you don't have fear. Most of these waves comes out of fear, because anger comes out of fear. Your personality, which is causing these waves, is the creation of fear. You have certain, what we call, lacking certain inferiority complex in your personality, which leads to this kind of behavior. Those who don't have that complex, those who are firmly on their own ground, they don't create these kind of waves. In fact, they bring peace, and they bring absolutely a pleasant atmosphere wherever they move. So this is the verse number 15. That this kind of individual who has attained this kind of personality is, I love him. That is what he says. Che me priye. That is, I like him. Then the next verse, verse number 16. जो पुरुष आकांक्षा से रहित, बाहर भीतर से शुद्ध, चतुर, पक्षपात से रहित और दुखों से छूटा हुआ है, वह सब आरंभों का त्यागी मेरा भक्त मुझको प्रिय है. Now let us see the Sanskrit words here. Anapeksha. Anapeksha means he is not having unnecessary expectations from anything. He accepts the outcome as it comes. He has no expectation. Then he will not be disappointed in any circumstances. He is discharging his duties, whatever is required to do, he is doing, and whatever comes, he accepts. Then that is called Anapeksha. Suchi. Suchi and then Daksh. Suchi means absolutely pure. The purity should be inside and outside. You see, inside and outside purity gives you stability. Like I have seen many people, I have seen many circumstances, and in fact, I have also done that kind of conduct at times. That somebody comes to your house and, for example, at a very odd time, and you feel agitated, you don't want to display that agitation, but politely, you, as a out of protocol, you perform your duty and you get out. But in your heart you are telling, oh, why did he come at this time? This was not correct behavior on his part. Now we are feeling that. Now that is what you call, there is no, what you call, uniformity between your conduct and your feeling. बाहर भीतर की शुद्धि नहीं है उसमें. So you are feeling agitated inside, but outside you are showing a pleasant behavior. This happens very often with each one of us. Now that behavior should be uniform. And in fact, you don't need to be agitated. You should be pleasant. Somebody has come by, not maybe a certain circumstances which pushed him to come at this time. Otherwise, why should he come and disturb me at this hour? So that kind of feeling can automatically bring a feeling of love, that maybe he's in trouble, let's solve his problem. So this happened to me many times when I was posted abroad. People call odd hours, sometimes they don't know the time difference and they call you on odd hours. Sometimes somebody is stuck somewhere in a very difficult situation and he wants your help. So then you have to realize that the person don't want to call you at odd hour and disturb, but because of these circumstances, they are doing so. So that feeling of, love comes into, or a problem solving thing comes into your mind, and you don't have that inconsistency between your inner thinking and outer behavior. So that is very important, to have uniformity of the inner thinking and outer behavior. That will make you feel comfortable, that will make you feel uh, uniform and united. That's very important. Otherwise you feel khand, as we say. We have discussed this word earlier. You feel one part of your body is saying something else, one part of the body is saying and doing something else. So we become akhand, not khand. Then there is a word, daksh. Now, daksh is translated as chatur, but it is not actually that meaning. Chatur is misunderstood sometimes. Daksh means a person who has qualities, who has good qualities. He has noble qualities. That is what daksh is. The person with noble qualities. Now, those qualities automatically come into your personality once you follow that path. So, this is what daksh is here. Then udasin. Now, udasino. Udasin is also misunderstood. Udasin means that you become indifferent. No, it is not so. The Sanskrit word udasin means ut asin, that you are sitting above. Your thinking is larger. You are not becoming trivial. You are not dealing with trivial issues. Your thinking, your position is much higher, and therefore you don't care for those small little mistakes which people do, and you leave them aside. So that is the meaning of, actually, the actual Sanskrit word is ut asin, udasin. Udasin is not indifferent. Udasin is that your thinking is much higher, your vision is higher, you are sitting higher, and therefore you don't bother about these small little things which people are doing. Like for example, you are flying in the aircraft, and then you have these small buildings down below. You don't even see them. You ignore them because they are not important in that particular plane where you are. And when the person walks in the street, he has all kinds of problems because somebody comes on the way, somebody hits him, somebody doesn't stop on the traffic light. All those things come, and somebody shouting on the road, somebody is blowing the horn. All these things will affect you, but you are above that, then they will not be you will not be impacted. So udasin means that your thinking is higher, you are above, and you do not give attention to the trivialities of life. So that is what udasin is here. And then Gatvyat means that you don't become vyatha. Vyatha nahi means you don't become unnecessarily agitated, or you don't become dukhi. You become pleasant. You remain pleasant all the time. You have gone beyond vyatha. व्यथा से दूर निकल गए आप, उससे आगे निकल गए. And then the next word is sarvarambh parityagi. That whatever you are doing, you are not doing, but it is being done because you have been put in that situation by the supreme, by the universal power, by the universal consciousness. And therefore you do not put your ego into the process. Sarvaram Tyagi means you are not doing anything, everything is being done by the Supreme, you are just an instrument in the process. And that is the feeling you have. So, all these qualities which have been mentioned here, you don't have to cultivate them one by one, because if you start doing that, you will never reach anywhere. You cannot actually cultivate them one by one. They will automatically become your part of your personality, provided you follow one of the four paths which have been mentioned up to verse number 12. Then the next verse is number 17. जो न कभी अर्षित होता है, न द्वेष करता है, न शोक करता है, न कामना करता है, तथा जो शुभ और अशुभ संपूर्ण कर्मों का त्यागी है, वह मुझको प्रिय है. Now this is in a way summary of some of the points mentioned in very precise language upstairs in the upper phrase. The precise language of Sanskrit which is given in the last four verses has been given in simplified verses, simplified manner here. हर्षित नहीं होता, द्वेष नहीं करता. These are very simple words for us which we can understand easily. शोक नहीं करता, कामना नहीं करता. All these things have come in the previous verses, but there the language is technical. Here the language is ordinary and simple for all of us to understand. और संपूर्ण शुभ अशुभ संपूर्ण कर्मों का त्यागी, all that it automatically happens, and that kind of devotee, I love him, I care for him, he is my devotee which receives all my love and affection. Then verse number 18, जो शत्रु मित्र में और मान अपमान में सम है, तथा सर्दी गर्मी और सुख दुख आदि में भी, आदि द्वंद्वों में भी सम है. Now dualities are the essential fact of this life. In the world where we live, we have up and down, we have right and left, we have pleasure and pain, we have beginning and end, we have friends and enemies. These are dualities because our mind starts analyzing things in two parts. That this person is abusing me, therefore he is my enemy. This person is praising me, therefore he is my friend. Now that is the duality arises because of the thinking in the mind. Now once we become surrendered, or we are completely surrendered to the Supreme, we come in His, under His grace, then all these dualities will automatically be wiped out. And everybody, whether we will not consider him as friend or enemy, but we will consider him as equal to each body, every one of us. We are all having the same consciousness from the Supreme. We are all performing our duties in different domains as assigned by Him to us, and therefore we do not have any feeling of enmity, do not have any feeling of special friendship. Everybody is friend to us. Then मान अपमान, सर्दी गर्मी, Sukh Dukh, all these are dualities, which are the creation of human mind. In the domain of the Supreme, the world runs in a particular way where these dualities are essential. For example, the sun has to rise and sun has to set. And you cannot avoid, if you want to run this world, then there has to be a night where all of us can take rest, our body is regenerated, and we have to have a day in which we all function and work. So similarly, all the activities, a person is bored, he has to die. If he has to live all the time immortal, obviously the world will not run, the world cannot be run. Therefore, dualities are essential element of this world. We have to accept them. But once we surrender to the Supreme, and we surrender means the real we, the real consciousness surrenders to Him, then all these dualities will be just a play outside. They will be just like Leela. They will not impact on us. So this is what Lord Krishna is saying here. Now, next two verses are also on similar lines. जो निंदा स्तुति को समान समझने वाला, मननशील और जिस किसी प्रकार से शरीर का निर्वाह होने में सदा संतुष्ट है और रहने के स्थान में ममता और आसक्ति से रहित है, वह स्थिर बुद्धि बुद्धिमान पुरुष मुझको प्रिय है. Now these things are inevitable. जैसे तैसे रह सकता है. In fact, the very first verse of Ishavasya Upanishad says that you don't have to draw too much from the nature. Don't get attached to to this world. You take whatever is required for your livelihood to live. You take that much from the nature. Now this is exactly शरीर का निर्वाह जैसे तैसे होता है, उससे संतुष्ट रहे. Because a person who doesn't have much wealth, he can also be happy. A person who has a lot of wealth, he can also be unhappy. And I have seen many such people. In fact, I have seen a large number of poor people happy and large number of rich people very unhappy. It's not a universally accepted principle, but this is my experience. And the richer the people are, in fact, some of them are far more unhappy. The poorer people are much happier. But leaving that aside, the fact is that whatever way the God has given us, whatever means the God has given us to live in the world, if we are happy with those means, then there is no problem. We don't have to create any attachment in this world. We don't have to have ninda and stuti, means the people who are criticizing you, the people who are abusing you, the people who are praising you, all that should not impact you. The outside world should not impact your thinking process, your movement, your personality, but that should be like a lighthouse in the ocean that should be firmly established in your own self. So this is what he said. Mananshil. Now, Mananshil is very important, that you have to all the time meditate on things. Whatever is happening, whatever you are observing, you should meditate on that so that you become assimilated. Your all, what you call anger, your hatred, your, selfishness, they will start diluting once you meditate on things. Once you think deeper into the functioning of this world, you automatically will start feeling that you can be stable and you can overcome all these inequalities, all those dualities which exist in this world. So this is what Lord Krishna has said. And then the last verse is, परंतु जो श्रद्धा में पुरुष मेरे परायण होकर इस ऊपर कहे हुए धर्म में अमृत को निष्काम प्रेम से सेवन करते हैं, वे भक्त मुझको अतिशय प्रिय हैं। परंतु जो श्रद्धा युक्त पुरुष मेरे परायण होकर, श्रद्धा युक्त, now this word has come earlier also. Shraddha is very important. Shraddha means it comes out of your devotion, out of surrender. Once you leave Kartapan, that I am the doer, I am determining the things in this world, I am the boss and I change this world. If you have that feeling, then you cannot have Shraddha. Shraddha comes only when you accept the Supreme as the doer, and also whatever results he give, you accept that is prasad, then Shraddha starts coming. So once you have that Shraddha and once you are surrendered to the Supreme, then everything he will take care of. It's like a child taken care of by mother. He doesn't do anything, he just leaves himself entirely to the mother. Similarly, we are child of the Supreme. If we leave ourselves to him, he will take care of us. If we believe that he is omnipresent, he is omniscient, obviously we don't have to tell him anything. He will automatically take care of everything. So these qualities, which I believe are 36 if you count them, in these verses from 13 to 19, if these qualities are coming into our personality one by one, or at least some of them, then we should presume that we are on the right path. We are on the path which will lead us to the unity with the Supreme. Now, that is a test which we have to apply, and these qualities we don't have to cultivate, they will automatically gain space in our personality once we are able to uh, adopt one of the four methods which are mentioned in verses 1 to 12. So I think this is what the crux of this chapter is, that we should adopt one of the four methods which we consider appropriate. But Lord Krishna has suggested that if you can leave the outcome of your action to the Supreme and accept the outcome as his prasad and connect with him all the time, I think that is the easiest method for all of us, and that will gradually give rise to all these qualities in our personality automatically. We don't have to make an effort. Now, in this context, I would also like to go back to some previous chapters which have been talking about similar talks, similar topic in the past. Now, in chapter 7, verse number 16, Lord Krishna has mentioned four types of devotees. The word which has been used, Artharthi, Arth, Jigyasu, and Jnani. Now, Artharthi is the one who wants to acquire something in the world, whether it's wealth or power or whatever, and he dedicates himself to the Supreme because of that selfish cause. Arth is that he is in trouble and he wants to get out of those trouble. That is the again he is having somewhat uh, selfish approach, and he is dedicated himself to the Supreme because of that. Then Jigyasu means only curiosity whether this a God exists or how this universe is run, and just out of curiosity the person wants to explore the Supreme, and then he becomes a devotee of the Supreme. And then fourth is Jnani, that is person who knows that there is a supreme power in this world which regulates this universe, which regulates all the life, all the conduct in this universe. Now he has said in this category that the fourth category of devotee, that is the Jnani devotee, is the best. Now in this 12th chapter, if we can have jnani, if we can have knowledge, and then adopt one of those methods of devotion, I think that combination is the perfect. We have some basic knowledge, and then we adopt one of the four methods which have been mentioned. So this is, I thought I will link the two here. Then there's another verse in chapter 6, verse number 30. Now the verse says that yo mam pashyati sarvam atmavat sarva bhutesu, that the person who sees me everywhere like he sees himself, like I see myself, he sees the supreme everywhere. All these images, forms, and roop, or what we call name and naam or roop, these are basically coming out of the interaction of the consciousness. The foundation of all these roop naam is consciousness. So if we know that foundation, then there's no problem, everything goes very smoothly. So यो माम पश्यति सर्वतम, जो मेरे को सब जगह देखता है, तो मैं उसको सब जगह देखता हूं. Then that what you call interpersonal relationship with the Supreme is fully established. So we have to see him everywhere, and then he will see us everywhere. There would be no problem at all. Similarly, there is another verse number 48 of chapter 6, which says siddhaya siddhayo samo bhutva samatvam yog uchyate, that sambhav hi yog hai. Basically, if you are equanimous in all the situations and you are not impacted by the outside world, that itself is yog. And I think this is what he has mentioned in some of the verses from 13 to 20th again, that if you do not get into dualities, or rather I would say it the other way around, that once you are connected with the Supreme, the dualities will automatically disappear and you will start becoming equanimous in all the situations. So I think this is the other way, is much better to understand it. So all these verses are relevant here. In fact, the chapter 6 and chapter 12, they are closely correlated. And if we can link the two, and if we can adopt in our personality a constant connection with the Supreme, a constant acceptance of what is happening in the world, and linking it to the Supreme, I think our personality is going to change totally. And you will become, you will leave all the dualities, you will become Maitri, you will become friend to everybody, you will become Karunamay, and you will be yogi, you will be connected to the Supreme all the time. So all these characteristics will automatically develop into you in your personality once you start, following one of those four paths which Lord Krishna has mentioned in this chapter. So I conclude this chapter here, Bhakti Yoga, and whatever they may call it, but it is the combination of Gyan and Bhakti both, because Bhakti comes after the Gyan. First you must have some knowledge, and then the devotion automatically, the surrender automatically happens. So the combination of Gyan and Bhakti will lead us to that path where we are constantly connected to the Supreme. We take him as the Supreme Boss. We actually feel his omnipresence, that he is omnipresent. We will feel that in that situation. So thank you very much, and we will have next session on next Saturday. If you have any queries, I'll try to explain to the best of my ability. Thank you.